Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the City of Gulf Shores Work Session Council meeting tonight on March 1st. The first item on the agenda is Councilman discussion period. Councilman Dyken.
Nothing other than what's on the agenda. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Jason. And to remind everybody, this is a work session. We'll be talking about the items that will be on the agenda next Monday to be voted on. This is your opportunity on every one of these items to wave your hand, be recognized, walk to the microphone, and make any comment you feel is important to you to make. We look forward to hearing from you. So moving on, the first item of business is a report from the Airport Authority. Scott, Small Community Air Service Development Program appropriation.
Morning or afternoon. What we have is a request from the authority before you for the city to join with Foley, Orange Beach, Tourism, Baldwin Economic Development Alliance, and the Gateway Initiative on the creation of a Air Service Development Fund. We're looking for an appropriation of $30,000 a year for 2 years. It's a 2-year program. Currently, we're about $250,000 in contributions. The authority also is going to contribute $100,000 in marketing efforts, marketing support, and another $20,000 in airport in-kind contributions. This will go directly toward the development of new air service to new destinations. 2-year program. We are trying to leverage this thing with the United States DOT, which would raise the fund up to $1.3 million if we're successful. So, questions?
Scott, thank you. Council, any questions or comments?
I think whereas this tower starts coming out of the ground, which it has, it's going to create a lot of people wanting some kind of service and stuff. And I think we're getting service requests now to get some airlines in here and stuff. So I think it's getting a lot of interest. So I think this is going to be good for us all.
And where we are on that right now, the authority is constructing a phase 1 air terminal, which the airlines are waiting for. So as soon as we get that up and operating, we'll be ready to go. But basically, to get started up, it's a 6-month process. So basically, they're wanting some share of risk to begin with.
So you're converting an existing building out there?
No, sir. Building a brand new building.
Brand new building for a temporary terminal?
That's right.
Thank you, Scott. Jason, any comments?
Just that the Airport Authority's been working long and hard for years now to really evolve that airport and upgrade the airport. Scott and the authority have done a fantastic job in doing so. The first phase was just to make sure everything was safe out there. The second phase was to really get the air traffic tower, control tower funded and built so that we could have a controlled airspace, which would make it a lot safer here for our community and make the airport a lot more accessible. And then really this third phase is the opportunity to investigate commuter airlines coming to this community and having direct flights out of Gulf Shores rather than having to drive to Pensacola or Mobile. And we have interest from airlines in so doing that. This program is a federal program that we are just partially matching and applying for so that funds will be available to help entice and incent and subsidize that type of service. So it's a great program, and we look forward to much success from the airport.
Any other council questions? I have one. Who's participating in this? Are other cities? You said the county and some of the economic development forces.
Yeah, right now we have the City of Foley has made a 2-year commitment, City of Orange Beach, Baldwin Economic Development Alliance, Tourism, and the City of Gulf Shores would be the 5th. I believe I've got everybody. But the Gateway Initiative will manage the fund.
So it is more of a regional effort. It's just not a Gulf Shores effort, the whole regional, because the region will be impacted.
That's
Thank
correct.
you, Scott. If there's no other council questions, we'll open it up to anybody in the audience with any questions and or comments. Scott, thank you. That's an exciting move forward, so really good. Next item is Engineering Department, and we've got 5 important discussions tonight to consider next week, and Mark Ackerman, it's all yours.
Yes, sir. The first one up tonight is awarding a bid to American Tennis Courts Incorporated This is to address Hurricane Sally damages. So this would be repairing all the damages to the George C. Meyer Tennis Center that's located at the Johnny Sims Park. So to give you a little background, Hurricane Sally caused significant damage to the tennis complex. We opened bids on February 23rd of this month, well, last month now, and the tennis complex, for the tennis complex, American Tennis Courts, Inc. was the lowest conforming bidder with a total bid amount of $166,962. There was some alternates in there, and there was one additive alternate that is a betterment, and what it would allow us to do is while we have the clay courts, we have that top lining removed for repair, we'll be able to replace the float valves in those courts, which controls the water level in the clay courts. These new float valves are current technology. They'll make the playability of those clay courts a lot better. It's only about a $2,400 additive alternate. So we are recommending we include that in the base bid and award the contract for not to exceed amount of $175,000. The base bid part of this contract will be 100% reimbursed through our insurance provider. Since these are all insured damages, because it was related to Hurricane Sally, they are 100% reimbursable. The $2,400 additive alternate will be covered by the tennis operational account as shown on the screen. And with that, we recommend awarding this to American Tennis in an amount not to exceed $175,000. And I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mark. Council, anybody?
I have a question. I saw in this proposal, is there any thought about the lights at the tennis courts? I know they're
Yes.
subpar, or is this done on a separate contract, or what is the situation with lighting for the tennis courts?
Lighting is going to be done under separate contract. It's a completely specialized service. I am working with a lighting consultant right now. There was one pole that was damaged and was broken. That will be replaced by insurance, but there's also additional poles out there that are weathered and probably due for replacement. So I'm trying to run some numbers right now to get those back from this consultant to present to the finance committee and to Steve and the mayor to get some ideas of how we want to proceed on the lighting portion of the repairs. We can at least repair the one light, but there's some long-term issues out there we need to be ready to address in the coming years.
Yes, I would agree. Lighting is suboptimal out there. I know a lot of tennis players, and they do acknowledge that they would love to see the lighting system upgraded if at all possible. Also, what is the timing of this, them starting and completing this project?
Once we award this, we think this is about a 60 to 90 day turnaround on the work that's to be done. The main portion of the project will be the resurfacing of all the hard courts and the 6 soft courts. So we'll have all 12 hard courts will be resurfaced because all of them took damage from the storm. And then we'll have all 6 of the soft courts resurfaced as well. That's probably gonna be the lion's share of the work, along with the netting and some wind screens and the cabanas that were damaged. So about 60 to 90 days for completion.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody on the council, any other questions? Anybody in the audience, questions, comments? Okay, Mark?
All right, the next one we have is to order bid to J&A Contracting for the installation of Gulf Place Playground shade cells. This is a project that's been budgeted for this year, so we're recommending awarding this bid to J&A Contracting. Give you a little background. We opened bids on Thursday, February the 11th for the Gulf Place Playground shade cells project. J&A Contracting was the lowest conforming bid with a total bid amount of $36,268. We recommended awarding a not to exceed amount of $40,000 to give us a little bit of contingency in there. And this contract will provide for installation of concrete footers, support columns, and the installation of the actual playground shade cells. The shade cells themselves, we were able to purchase off of a government co-op, so they did not require a actual formalized bid process. We were able to purchase off that co-op as allowed by our procurement laws in the state of Alabama. So to give you an idea of what this is going to look like, this is the kids' playground at Gulf Place. It gets extremely hot in the summertime. The equipment gets very hot. It makes it sometimes it's almost too hot to play on. And so this shade structure will provide a year-round shade. The colors of the shade cells themselves will blend in with the rest of Gulf Place. So we've had a color selection. Grant and his team has helped us select the colors to match the rest of Gulf Place. And this is what the final product will look like. We did have $70,000 budgeted for the labor for this project. Labor came in at $40,000, so it is under budget. And therefore, we recommended awarding the installation contract for the Gulf Place Playground shade cells to J&A Contracting, amount not to exceed $40,000. And I'll be glad to answer any questions.
And I guess we have the shade sales, is that under a separate contract, or?
It's been, they're under fabrication right now. We've purchased them, we've sent the PO to the fabricating company, and they're currently fabricating the shade cells themselves.
And I assume that we solved the problem with the new shade cells, replacing those that tore. Are you confident that what we
Yes.
have is better than what we initially had?
Well, these are a different product. The shade cells that were damaged in Gulf Place have all been replaced. We got brand new shade cells to install under the warranty for the first ones. So the big pavilion type shade cells along the boardwalk and in our the lawn area, all of those shade cells have been replaced. We do have new shade cells to install. They haven't been installed yet, but we do have brand new ones that were provided to us by the manufacturer under their warranty. These are new shade cells strictly for the playground. They're not as I'll say they're not as high of a quality as those because they're smaller and they can be easily replaced or removed in the case of a storm.
Okay, I just know that those others did not hold up well. and
They
I
dry
just
rotted,
was
yes.
hoping that these were better quality that would hold up. Any other council comments or questions?
Yeah, I have one, Mark. Was any consideration, I noticed when you put that up there, you said playground equipment was getting hot. As we remember last August, I think it was, we got several emails about Myers Playground. Do we have that in this, or is that going to be something separate later?
We have that budgeted for this year as well. We are working with the same fabricator that's on the co-op to get the cut sheets approved for Meyer Park. It's underway as we speak, and we're going to do a similar bid process where we'll bid out the labor to install that. But as soon as we have the shop drawings back that we can approve and issue that company a purchase order for the Meyer Park project, we'll be able to go out for bid on the labor as well and bring that to you guys for consideration. But it is a budgeted item for this year.
Okay, because I went over last year after the email, and that playground equipment was very hot.
Yes.
So, okay, thank you.
Mark, the shade sails, the ones that got tore up in the storm, did they put back the same kind? Or they?
Well, the ones that were destroyed in the storm were the old ones. We had received the new ones to replace the old ones with, but we had not installed them yet. So the storm actually took out the old ones. So we have brand new ones in hand. We just haven't had them installed yet.
And the playgrounds, they're just new, they never had any before?
No, there's nothing there today. This will be the first time they've ever had shade cells once this contract is executed.
Are the new ones that got tore up by the storm, are the new ones better quality like the mayor was? Or is it the same?
Well, the manufacturer sent us a replacement, and given the problems we had with the last one's dry rotting so rapidly in the sun, I think there was some additional coatings or something they did to the shade cell.
Higher grade fabric.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's supposed to last longer than what they sent us the first time.
thank you.
Anybody else on the council? Audience, any questions or any comments? Okay, Mark?
Okay, this is a professional services contract. This is for Waterway West conceptual design and cost estimating proposal from Barge Design Solutions, Inc. So I met with Barge Design Solutions to work up a proposal to evaluate Waterway West. We're starting to see obviously more traffic on Waterway West. We've had a lot of requests to improve the pedestrian safety on Waterway West as well as the overall roadway quality itself. So Barge Design Solutions gave me a proposal to do an evaluation of that, to come up with some detailed renderings of what we can do with the road as well as what those improvements would cost for future budgeting. So the limits of the study will be from Highway 59, seen on the right-hand side of the screen, all the way to County Road 6. And that is the limits of Waterway West that's currently in the corporate limits and under city's maintenance responsibilities. Anything outside of this is either a state highway or a county-maintained roadway. So this is approximately 3 miles long, and it will start at Highway 59 and terminate at County Road 6. It does need improvements now. We've seen increasing traffic demands and pedestrian safety becoming more of an issue. NOAA did, and we had a public involvement meeting a couple of weeks ago on this. NOAA received a restore grant to install a 4x24-foot box culvert to address the roadway flooding, and that project's scheduled to begin the fourth quarter of this year and be finished the first quarter of next year. So this will kind of dovetail that nicely. So once the drainage issues have been resolved, this proposal will evaluate the existing roadway and subsurface, including, and utilize our master street plan to look at not only the current traffic counts, but also 2040 traffic counts, make recommendations to improve the road itself, as well as accommodate bikers and pedestrians. And then, using all that information, they will give us a detailed cost estimate to help us with future budget considerations. Currently, we have $2,370,000 in kind of a catch-all land and improvements budget that includes multiple roadway projects, and that's the budget that will fund this professional services contract. We are recommending approving this professional service contract, Barge Design Solutions, in an amount not to exceed $50,000. And with that, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
What are they gonna be evaluating on what it's gonna take to upgrade the road and for like bike paths and
Yes.
walkways?
Yes, the road itself was built decades ago. More than likely, it will be a complete rebuild of the road. So they're going to actually do geotechnical work, take borings along the road, and really establish what a true cost would be to upgrade that road to handle the projected traffic for the next 20 years, and then also include pedestrian recommendations for bikers, as well as detached multi-use path. Lee Jones is actually working with me to help kind of set the template of the roadway itself, and then we'll bring those findings back with the cost estimates for future budget considerations.
Thank you.
And additionally, that is important because the Restore Council will be in late '21, early '22, evaluating new proposals for roads eligible projects within the Restore Grant, and this would be one. So for us to have an understanding of what it's going to cost and the cost benefit analysis is really important so that we're prepared for a presentation of a project like that, if that's becomes our highest priority. But we have to have some type of strategy of what we're going to build and what's going to cost.
Absolutely.
So we need that in advance of being able to apply for a grant. So that's an additional consideration of why we don't get that done. So any other council comments or questions?
Yes, sir. Mark, has the approximate location for that box culvert been established?
Yes, there was a natural drainage stream that went through there that was
On the west
severely,
side, where the barge went through?
exactly where the barge went through. When it was restored, it never reestablished itself, but NOAA hired a coastal engineer, Moffitt and Nichols, that were able to determine the exact location of where that needs to go, so that stream bed can reestablish itself and we can get the tidal exchange under that road.
Great,
Yes.
because it killed, that wetland deteriorated badly on the north side of County Road 4.
And if you recall, you guys, through some grant funding that Dan was able to secure, we purchased the wetlands on the north side.
Right.
So this will also assist us with reestablishing those wetlands and restoring them to their pristine condition.
Thank you.
And they will be elevating a considerable elevation along that area, not only to put the culvert down, but raise the roadway to keep the water, force the water to the culvert, to get back out into the intercoastal area there in that marsh on the south side. So again, another real good reason to tie together what we're contemplating adding to that on either end. It'd be a great opportunity to combine those two projects at some point in time, or feed off that, what they get done, and add on to it and fix the whole road. So, any other audience, any questions, comments, thoughts?
Well, that was my question. You're talking about in that low area, they will be raising the road up down there to help that situation? Okay, good, thank you.
Okay, Mark?
The next two items, unfortunately, are ones I do not like to present to you guys, but they are what they are. First one we have is a Jose Weaver and Sons closeout change order for Coastal Gateway Boulevard improvements. We've completed their contract, and we've tallied up the final numbers on all the work that was performed, and unfortunately, the project did come in over budget, so we have to do a closeout change order so that the final contract amount matches what's been paid to the contractor. So give you a little background, the Coastal Gateway Boulevard project ran approximately 1 year beyond the original construction timeline due to numerous unforeseen conditions related to utility conflicts, field changes, and then ultimately Hurricane Sally. During construction, it was discovered that we had many underground utilities that were not properly located. These conflicts were ultimately resolved by both the contractor and the responsible utility companies, but they did result in 216 days of construction delays. We also had additional field changes as we worked along the developments. We had driveway modifications, landscaping improvements we made, and then we had some additional landscaping that we replaced and upgraded in front of Kraft Farms North as a result of Hurricane Sally. In addition, Hurricane Sally caused severe washouts that damaged stormwater systems, utilities, curbing, paving, landscaping, and base material, and added an additional 3 months to the contract itself. So the budget implications, the Coastal Gateway Boulevard project is being funded by transportation bond. In fiscal year 2020, we did not spend approximately $520,000 in bond monies that were budgeted in transportation improvements. Now, some of these savings can be utilized to pay for this overrun. And what ultimately was going to be the final contract amounts and percentages are, the original contract was $9.2 million. We had a closeout change order of $253,718.57, which gives us a final contract amount of $9,453,718.57. That change order was about a 2.8% increase over the original construction costs. Of that amount, the city has submitted a $165,000 claim due to Hurricane Sally damages to FEMA and AEMA for reimbursement. So we'll get some of this money back, but right now we do have to close out the overall contract for the amount we spent on it. So therefore, we recommend approving Jose O. Weaver and Sons closeout change order for $253,718.57. And with that, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Council?
Is the project done?
The contracted work is done. Engineering and Public Works are still working on repairing some fences that we had to move back. It was originally in property, now it was donated right away, and we've got some landscaping work to finish up there as well.
I just noticed some work going on still.
Yeah, and then
Sure.
Baldwin EMC is currently installing the street lights.
Thank you.
It's a great improvement. The road looks great, and not to let you off of any change order pressure, but 2.8% overrun on a project of that size and nature, to me, I think is well below anyone should expect for that kind of project. So it's $250,000, still a lot of money that you need to lose a little sleep over, but.
Oh, I did, and I am. So.
Overall, I think that's a well-done project, Mark.
I don't think there's any question about the well-done project. Anybody in the audience with any questions or comments or want to jump on Mark for spending too much money?
Everybody should know that he got thrashed at the finance committee
I
meeting
sure did.
appropriately as well. So this is his second or third time around of having to.
It's easier to,
No, it doesn't. It does not.
good.
We just want to carry on Miss Carolyn's tradition and make sure they hold the feet to the
If
toes.
there's one saving grace, it's the fact that she's not here. I know Herb's here. She'll find out.
Well, you're not completely off the hook.
No,
You got
I'm not.
another- You got another one to talk about here.
Unfortunately,
Not
I've got another one
inspecting
for
all
almost
this.
the same amount. With that, with the 1 year overrun, of course, we still had to pay for inspection services, testing, and field engineering. So my final item tonight is from Volkert Inc. It's for closeout change order for the Coastal Gateway Boulevard improvements for their CE&I contract. So just as you recall, I've already summarized why we ran over on time. Volkert's original contract, CE&I contract, was based on an established 360-day construction timeline. Because that additional year was needed to complete the project, they had an overrun to their original contract. So same thing, we still have not exceeded the underrun we had from last year of $520,000 in the transportation bond account, and therefore we do intend to use those savings to fund the change order. The original contract amount was $804,757. The closeout change order was $231,036.98 for a final contract amount of $1,035,793.98. That's still the total professional services contract amount represents 11% of the total construction costs, and we always try to keep that under 15%, so we still met that goal even with this additional change order. And about 15,000 of their overrun was directly related and has been documented due to Hurricane Sally, and we have submitted that money for reimbursement from FEMA and AEMA. And with that, I'll take my chew in.
Any questions, comments from the council? You think Mark's had enough? Anybody in the audience, any questions, comments? Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
If you can sit down comfortably, go ahead. Hello, Cindy.
Hello, good afternoon.
You got a couple of things for us?
Yes, I do. The first one is a franchise renewal request for a 5-year renewal of the MediaCom Southeast LLC franchise. 5 years ago, Mike Hawley began working with them to try to improve their service standards. And also, we got a performance security of $50,000 at that time. That's a bond that they give us. In FY 2019, they had $146,000 in revenues, and in 2020, $153,000 in franchise fee revenues. Some of the enhancements that they have done recently is a web link on our website for citizens to address their complaints with MediaCom. And they've also gotten a local number in Gulf Breeze where people can call when they have complaints instead of talking to someone out of a different state. Well, different, like out of New York. And so with that, we recommend approval of the MediaCom franchise agreement for another 5 years.
Do we have any way to monitor the complaints that are coming in? Do they go to them, or do we get some? I know we get some of those, but do we know the number of complaints they're receiving?
I do not know if we have the count that they have. However, Mike Hawley talks to their customer service rep regularly and is able to address the issues that we know of. But as far as what type of complaints that they're getting, we do not, I don't think we have a count on that. Mike's here.
Well, I just think that it's hard to evaluate the quality of services with the franchise without knowing how many complaints we have other than those we hear about. Mike, you got any thoughts on that?
Over the last 5 years, we've probably received just a handful of complaints. We don't get a whole lot like we used to before we made the changes to the franchise. And whenever we do get a complaint, we have a great point of contact now where we can reach out and get things done. So for the citizens that are frustrated, that have had some problems, we're their advocate now, and we take over and we get it done for them. But as far as complaints, probably 10 over the last 5 years.
Okay, I would have to assume they're getting complaints that we don't know about. Would that be a correct assumption?
That would be correct.
Well, because I think it would be important as we look at this franchise commitment that we understand the complaints, the specific complaints we get from our citizens, so that we know that they know that we're aware of things that are going on and we can react to. It's just a thought as we talk about modifying or renewing a franchise for another 5 years, making sure that we include in there just a thought process of how do we be assured of knowing what our citizens are saying.
Right. A lot of times what we get is a citizen that's sort of exhausted all the efforts to try to remedy the situation on their own. And that's kind of where we step in and help them out. And as far as the complaints that MediaCom gets, most of the time they trickle down to us because the complaint's loud enough that we get involved.
Well, we may not choose to make them tell us what their complaints are, but we can let our citizens know that we're their advocate. If you've got a complaint, let us know too. And then
Absolutely.
that may be enough to, at least making sure, as we approve a franchise, that this franchise is meeting the needs of the community.
Absolutely. And we've got a web link for customer complaints for MediaCom, CenturyLink, that you can get on our website. You can make your complaint. It comes directly to me, and then I get involved. So if there's citizens out there that are having problems now, we can get involved and be your advocate.
And that does include, at least with MediaCom, the Wi-Fi connections, and does that ramp over to others? I mean, how much involvement do you have monitoring Wi-Fi questions?
The Wi-Fi questions that we get, well, down at the beach, they have a public Wi-Fi that they've installed, and they have one at the Sportsplex as well. I haven't received any complaints on that so far. And that's a free public Wi-Fi for the city of Gulf Shores and its citizens.
Okay. But I just, again, thinking as a consumer, the issues, and not complaints, but just challenges that I think we all have with technology from time to time, and with construction in the area and weather issues. And so, anyway, good information. I just open a little dialogue, make sure that our citizens know that we are their advocate for any of those type of issues that they have problems with.
Yes, sir.
Robert, I'd like to stress that too, because I think probably 10 of the complaints that you received in the last 5 years about MediaCom, probably 9 of them were from me.
They were.
So I think it's very important that we get the message out that the city does provide this easement to our property, and therefore we do have some leverage over some of these companies that use our right-of-ways, and that we are the citizens advocate, and that we want to hear from you if you are having problems. And please use that portal to report to us, because if we don't know and you just complain directly to MediaCom, and if you've done that process, which I'm sure many in this room have, it's quite frustrating. It takes about 2 hours of your day to actually get on the line and speak to somebody that actually knows where Gulf Shores, Alabama is. So please utilize the Gulf Shores resources and our ability to kind of work as your advocate as we try to improve service in the area, because I know we do have some great fiber and some great partners, but we also have some service areas that aren't served appropriately and have some antiquated, copper lines that don't work as efficiently as the fiber out there. So, we always like to, as a city, step up and try to, I always think that access to the internet and technology and resources like that are just as important as our infrastructure for roadway and water and sewer and everything else, particularly as we look at expanding and growing this community and economic development in this community. It's become, and with virtual learning with COVID, I mean, technology and access to technology is an essential part of a vibrant community. So we want to play that role as a partner for our citizens. So good work in establishing those relationships, and let's just promote those relationships and get our citizens to buy in as well, so we can continue to evolve and get better from a technology standpoint. Thanks.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions or comments from the council? Audience, anybody? Well, again, one more additional comment about that, knowing what the issues are. We are about to approve a 5-year franchise. And, if we don't hear from you about your needs and we don't get any input, then we're approving this based on our thoughts, and we don't know what your concerns are. So we'll be voting on this next week. So if you're listening and you got issues that we need to address in this, it'd be the time to do it. So let us know. And you let us know, and try to get in touch with Mike and his department through the city.
Thank you, sir.
Ms. Swiker.
Excuse me. Yes, come to the microphone, please.
I'd just like to say that, with us getting ready to renew a contract, I don't think it's any secret that this community has been extremely frustrated with the service that MediaCom has offered here. We don't have very many choices, so the choices we do have, I don't feel that are very good. We're kind of caught between this or nothing. And I know that last year we put a building up down on the West Beach. We needed to have a box moved. And Mark can attest to it. We came out, we worked with everyone on the scene. We called Gulf Breeze. They sent us to someone else. We called somewhere else. We kept getting the runaround. It took us almost a month and a half to get that box moved. Everybody wanted to give us a runaround about who was going to do it and who was responsible for it. We had a building that went up that we've been working on down over on Highway 59. MediaCom came out. We had a couple of tenants that wanted to have lines run. They come out, they lay the line on the ground and say it's going to be 3 weeks before they come back and bury it. So they lay a big orange line all the way down the line. They get upset if you ask them to bury it. They want to run it all down the building haphazardly. We had spent a lot of money trying to get these buildings put together, and they wanted to run a big orange line all the way down the building. We asked them to run it neatly, and the technician was very rude about it and did not want to help us at all. In addition, this is a resort community, and we have a lot of people down on West Beach where guests are coming in, and when the internet or the MediaCom cable goes out, you try to schedule something. Thank goodness for Pam at the office. She is the saving grace of MediaCom. She's the face of here, and if you go in there and talk to her, she can try to help you. She tries to help you get it done, but they want to schedule you. If your cable's out, they want to schedule it 3, 4, next week we'll be there, next Tuesday, and you have a guest coming in over the weekend. So, and, we're the ones that take the brunt of that. We're the ones that they complain to. If they need more technicians, I don't know what they need, but we need to be serviced much, much better by the utility services that we have here in the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Any questions or comments? Cindy, you got one more? Mike, thank you.
Yes, I have another item. It's a 2021 taxi franchise request from Beach Express Taxi LLC, doing business as Beach Express Taxi. The owner, Jeff Beach, was the previous owner of a Better Cab, and they plan to operate a 2017 Chevy Express van. The franchise fees are listed, $200 franchise fee, and business licenses are based on gross receipts, which start at $135. And then the individual drivers also pay an annual permitting fee, $25 for new and $10 for renewal. Recommend, they've met all the requirements to have a taxi franchise, and we recommend approval of that.
Thank you, Cindy. Council, any questions? Audience, any questions, comments? Thank you, Cindy. Grant?
Good afternoon. So today, what we are presenting is an opportunity to have an assembly permit. And about a year ago, almost to the day, was when COVID hit, and it pretty well shut down all the special events and programs related to our city. With me today, Bridget Reynolds and Erica Bassett, who are two of our leaders in this department and division. And what we would like to present to you today is an offer called Music at Meyer Park. We've done Music at Meyer Park in the past, and we use the northwest quadrant at Meyer Park. We built a small elevated stage with a cover and have ample power there. And the goal is to bring some music to that community Thursday evenings, starting late March, every Thursday for 5 consecutive Thursdays. And it's an opportunity for our residents to enjoy a park, get out, listen to some good music. Part of the application that you'll see also includes the use of food trucks or some type of food and beverage offering. We're not sure yet if one of the food purveyors or beverage purveyors will participate or not, but when we presented the application for your consideration, we wanted to include that because we feel that adds a vital program to this music opportunity. And typically music at Meyer Park is anywhere from 150 to 250 residents. They bring their lawn chairs, they bring a little picnic with them or grab a pizza and bring in and eat it. It's an opportunity to listen to some good music outdoors. The COVID regulations that our team has put together will safely create the environment. People will have an opportunity easily to stay distant apart, and we'll make sure to help them remember that. We feel like it's a good way to very slowly get back into doing some type of events and some programs for the community. The bands that Erica has laid out, Kenny and the Keys has been with us before. The bands are good bands, some good music you can dance to, a very fun evening for really our local residents. With the COVID regulations, George Surrey, our fire marshal, has done just an excellent job of keeping us, just like other applications that come before the city from non-city staff, making sure that we provide the environment to keep these safe. So we feel like we're ready to offer this small introduction back into community event. And with that, I'll be glad to answer questions. I think, Jacob, would you put the next slide up for me? Can you advance it forward? So you see on the screen, that's the layout of that northwest quadrant with the stage in the upper right, and you see where we've got the food trucks placed there. We feel like it'd be a great opportunity to have a taco truck or somebody come over there and supply some food, and everybody come out and enjoy a couple hours of music in the park. With that, I'll be happy to try to answer any questions, and if I can't answer a question, Bridget and Eric are here, and I know they can.
Thank you, Grant. Council? I think it's a great event. And I hope that food trucks will be available, and that this makes sense to me to offer that over there. It won't just be for that side of town. Everybody will can participate, and hopefully will. So that's my thoughts or comments. Anybody in the audience, any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Grant. We have one more item for tonight. This is a zoning issue and request to amend the PUD for the lake property. Andy?
Good afternoon, Mayor and City Council. This is a PUD amendment to the lake tract. The applicant requests to amend Pod D of the approved master plan to permit single-family attached houses and modify the lot sizes and setbacks within Pod D. All other areas of the approved master plan will remain the same, and this PUD amendment only affects Pod D. All conditions of the original approval also will remain in effect. These two screens show the location of the lake tract in relationship to the rest of the city of Gulf Shores. The lake tract is located a little bit north of the Intercoastal Waterway. It's to the west of Highway 59 and to the south of West 36th Avenue. On the right-hand side, the lake tract is outlined in black. Some of the surrounding uses: to the east is the Gulf Shores Utilities Facility and also the wedding chapel. To the north is a mixture of single-family houses, some warehousing, and then a multifamily apartments. To the west is industrial zoned property that's vacant. It's owned by the city of Gulf Shores. And then to the south is some vacant BG zoned property. A little background on this PUD. In October of 2018, the City Council approved a PUD overlay for this 83-acre parcel. The PUD reduced the permitted density from 1,375 units that the underlying zoning allowed to a maximum of 575 units. A condition of the original approval is for the applicant to dedicate an 80-foot wide right-of-way at West 34th Avenue. This would go completely through the property, and they would also have to construct the roadway within the right-of-way. As required by the PUD approval, the applicant has dedicated the 80-foot right-of-way to the city. This did appear at the December 2020 Planning Commission meeting, and the Planning Commission recommended 7-1 to recommend approval to the City Council. This next slide shows the PUD master plan that was approved in 2018. Again, the PUD reduced density by 800 units. It's an 83-acre parcel. The maximum number of dwelling units allowed by the PUD approval is 575. Density equals 6.9 dwelling units per acre. The development had 4 pods of development. A Pod A, which would be 120 attached villas. Pod B, 270 apartments. Pod C, 35 attached carriage homes. And then Pod D, which is before you today for the amendment, originally was approved for 150 single-family houses. The PUD also contained a 35-foot natural buffer around the entire property. So the reason for this request is after further analysis by the applicant on Pod D, it was discovered that approximately half of the 37 acres were composed of wetlands. So Pod D, again, is 37 acres and 19 acres of it is considered wetlands. The applicant proposes to buffer the wetlands in accordance with our wetland protection ordinance, which was the required 30 feet of natural vegetation. So again, the reason for the proposed amendment is to permit single-family attached houses in addition to the originally approved single-family detached houses, modify the setbacks. They seek to decrease the lot sizes, decrease the density, and then the open space would be increased because of the wetlands. And this diagram shows the location of Pod D in relationship to the overall development. It's got an underlying zoning of R15. This next diagram shows you the approved Pod D versus the proposed Pod D kind of site plan. So on the left is the approved Pod D. As you can see, the majority of the 37 acres is developed with 150 single-family lots. The proposed Pod D, as you see on the right, shows the location of the wetlands, the 35-foot wetland buffer, and then shows approximately 72 single-family lots. Staff has analyzed both the approved PUD or approved Pod D versus the proposed amendment, and I'll go over those differences for you now. Again, approved Pod D had 150 units. It's now proposed to have 72 units. The density originally approved was 4 dwelling units per acre. Proposed is 1.9 dwelling units per acre. A lot size was 6,000 square feet. Now they're proposing 4,500 square foot lot sizes. Setbacks have also being requested to be modified. Originally approved, there was a 30-foot front, 5 feet rear, and 30-foot rear yards. The proposal is to have a 25-foot or 40-foot front. I'll explain that in next slide. A 0 feet or 5-foot side yard and a 25 feet rear yard. The housing types, as originally approved, was only for single-family detached houses. This amendment, they seek to approval to add a single-family attached housing use to the development in addition to the original approved single-family detached houses. Open space is originally approved. The applicant indicated they would meet the minimum 10% requirement. Now they are proposing 62% of Pod D to be open space, which obviously includes the wetlands. So some of the development details. The applicant currently is primarily focusing on development of this property with single-family detached housing. They provided staff a couple conceptual plans, and I'll go over those with you now. So potentially it would have 1 or 2 story houses. They provided 2 conceptual lot layouts. One has a single car garage, the other one with a garage that can accommodate 2 cars. So the diagram on the right shows the single car garage. They've set back the garage to meet the 40-foot building setback that was recently approved with the zoning text amendment within the last month. That single car garage, or in addition to the single car garage, you would be able to park 2 additional vehicles in the driveway prior to the lot line. So that would accommodate 3 vehicles on that lot layout. The diagram with the 2-car garage on the left, again, shows two vehicles parked in the garage. In addition, you'll be able to park 2 vehicles outside of the garage before the lot line, so that could accommodate 4 vehicles. Both of these layouts exceed the minimum parking standards of single-family attached and detached houses. Single-family attached and detached houses require 2 parking spaces per unit. So this is something we work with the applicant to make sure that they could accommodate not only our zoning regulations, but provide a couple additional parking spaces in case the garages are full. With that, city staff recommends approval of the amendment to the late PUD with the following conditions. Number 1, all conditions of the original PUD approval, ordinance 1906, shall apply to the PUD amendment. Number 2, allow single-family attached uses within Pod D. Number 3, no apartments, multifamily, or stackable units are allowed within Pod D. Any change from the proposed single-family detached and attached cottage uses shall require Planning Commission and City Council approval. Number 4, the PUD amendment for Pod D shall reset the 5-year timeline to commence construction of the development. The 5-year timeline shall begin with the approval of the PUD amendment. And we added a condition number 5 to address, as I indicated, the applicant is primarily focused on the development of this property with single-family detached housing. But in the case that they want to do single-family attached housing, as potentially would be approved by the city council, we've added a similar condition to address the parking situation for single-family attached houses. And that would be condition number 5. A minimum of 2 parking spaces in addition to a garage parking space shall be provided for the attached housing products. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions. One other item, this is a amendment to the zoning ordinance, so we will have to advertise this for 22 days prior to it being heard at a public hearing for the city council.
So it'll be in April, probably.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Andy. Council?
Yes, sir.
Questions, comments?
Yes, sir. Andy, I know a lot of us in the real estate industry traditionally would call attached housing duplex, triplex, fourplex. How is this attached housing defined? What type of a construction?
So, I mean, kind of like it says, attached housing is, they share a common wall, side wall.
Understand.
And it could be it could technically be a
I've seen some of that product in Foley. I haven't seen any down here.
Right.
really.
We don't have a lot of that. I mean, I guess it could be a duplex, it could be a triplex, it could be like a townhouse product, but our zoning ordinance classifies single-family attached and detached.
I understand.
And then it
that.
breaks it down probably into duplexes, triplexes.
I believe there's some of that in
townhouses.
Craft Farms. I think Craft Farms has a few of those
Yes,
products.
sir. There's
Thank
not a
you.
whole lot in the city, but it is allowed.
Thank you. Wanted to clarify that.
Andy, what was the thing about zero side setbacks to 5 foot, you said?
So for the single-family attached housing products, they would have a 0 side yard setback because the common walls would be built at 0 feet. The 5-foot side yard setback would be the minimum setback for single-family detached housing.
But on the attached housing, they still have 5 on each side?
So
The building?
So for the attached houses, for the building group, they would have 10 feet before another building group
Yeah,
is
it'd be 5
proposed.
on each side of the current building. Also, I noticed the parking on the, where you had 3 cars all in a row, that's not too feasible. I mean, how does somebody get out of there? Are they gonna wind up parking on the street, or? I mean, nobody parks like that.
So if someone had to get
If
out
somebody's
of
gonna
there,
have to
someone
get
have
out,
to move their car.
cars, come out of the garage and then pull back in and.
Right, someone
that's
have to.
just that's not human nature.
Someone would have to move a car under that situation.
And how come the lots, he's decreasing the size of the lots?
So the reason the applicant is requesting to decrease the lot size is to try to recapture a portion of the density that was lost to the wetlands.
Yeah, because originally it was, well, they basically cut the,
Originally, it was 6,000 square feet of lot sizes. Now they're recommending, was it 4,500 square feet? Or they're proposing 4,500 square feet. But that's the reason the applicant's request is to try to recapture a portion of the density that was lost because of the wetlands on the property.
now how much, yeah, but he lost basically half his property and he basically cut his density in half. So did he give up any extra land? Because it seems if he could put 150 on what he had with the 60-foot lots, why can't he put half the amount of house on the half the property? Because if he lost half his property, he cut half the density down.
Yes.
So what?
Yeah,
He had 150 approved. Now
Yeah,
he's,
what I'm saying is,
now he's proposing 72, which is roughly half of.
yeah, basically 75 would be half of the 150. And then he had 8 acres and he lost half of, well, acre more than half.
And it could be because of there's a 30-foot wetland buffer requirement that.
That's what I mean, is he
Takes-
giving up more land than the wetland, the 19 acres?
The 30-foot
Is that why the
wetland,
lots have to be smaller?
Yes.
that's what they're requesting, yes.
Okay.
So he can recapture some of that. As I made the point when he first come up, that was a lot of wetlands there. So how many, from 6,000 to 4,000 square foot lots, how many additional houses or lots did he lose? Did y'all figure that? You
If,
follow
if
it?
we multiplied, okay, if we took the 18 acres of uplands and multiplied it by the 6,000 minimum lot size versus the 4,500 minimum lot size, is that your question?
Well, what I'm asking, he went from 150 to 72 by decreasing his lots. If he left them at 6,000, would that be 60 lots instead of 72?
I have not run that number, but I'll be glad to, we could estimate that for you, yes, sir.
Seems like, you know, he knew that was wetlands. He knew he was gonna have to do something there, so I don't see why we should have let him decrease the lot size and keep the 6,000 there, because that was wetlands to start with. He wasn't gonna be able to build on. So,
Yes, sir, we can estimate the difference between the 6,000 square feet and 4,500 square foot lots.
that's just a comment by me.
Sure.
Just more administrative, I see on the Pod D analysis, 150 was the original approval that we did, and everyone was happy with that layout of Pod D along with Pod A, B, and C. And really, it's a nice development, really well designed. And with the proposed amendment, it would reduce that 150 to 72, so losing 78 potential units. Do we also need to reduce the 575 that's approved for the total PUD by that 78 unit number, so that there's no additional units? So he's not taking those 78 units and squishing them into Pod A, B, or C?
And moving them somewhere else?
Yeah, just to make sure. I mean, I think it's more administrative than anything. I don't think that's the intent. I don't think the applicant wants to do that, but just to dot our i's and cross our t's, I
I'd
would
say the
assume
city-
that
the city
575
council
would
could-
want to be reduced.
You could include that as a sixth condition of approval if you felt so.
I would personally recommend that, just to make it consistent.
Just a comment, I think that's the way the planning commission looked at the overall reduction in density is, with this change. There is a mixed, product on site from multi-family to single-family homes and now the attached, single-family homes. So, which can be built on a smaller lot. I was the only no vote, not because of the density, not because of the lot size, but because these proposed units at the time did not meet our new garage setback, and I didn't see room for the parking of the cars on it. So that was my no vote. We had just approved that ordinance, and there were other PUDs that had to follow that. Project did not meet the grandfathering requirements. So, but the applicant has gone back now, redesigned those 72 lots to meet the intent of the garage setback ordinance we did by having some 40-foot setbacks on single-car garages and then the 25 on the two cars. So we added some two-car garages and moved the setback on the other lots to 40 foot, which now allows the cars to park in the driveway and stay off the sidewalks, which was our intent of that garage placement ordinance modification that we did. So although he didn't have to do that under a PUD, he could submit whatever setbacks he wanted. But I appreciate the response to that and your efforts to improve on that. And so just wanted to explain that.
Was there any way to allow a lesser setback on the single garage? I mean, in other words, to make it a double? In other words, single garage, a double car garage, say you got two vehicles per house and, they're side by side. But when you're stacked deep like that, is there any way he can redesign that and allow them to have the same setback as a double car garage, where he could make those double car garages on both sides of the, each side, of the attached house?
That makes the whole view from the front nothing but garage. I have a 50-foot lot, and I have a single-car garage, and I have a driveway that'll accommodate several vehicles outside and off of any potential, if there's ever a sidewalk built in front of my house, it wouldn't be on the sidewalk. It is an issue to try to get the middle car out, but you work it out. But we don't park in the grass. It works for me, and it doesn't mean that my whole front of my house is a garage. I've got a garage and I've got a front door. And that was important to me. And I honestly think that good use of land, that I don't believe the lot size indicates a lesser product. I think someone with a good architectural style and understanding can build a really attractive, we see it all over the place, a really attractive home on a smaller lot, and particularly when you give the variety of the homes down a streetscape, it can be a lot better than just nothing but a wall of double garages all the way down. So I like the mix, and I believe that, yes, it is a little bit difficult, but you have to accommodate moving cars to let somebody out. I do it all the time. It is not fun, but it's certainly, to me, it was beneficial to do that as opposed to having the garage taking the face of my house. So just a comment from someone that has that.
And the other thing that the potential buyers of these lots with a single car garage would know that going into it, that, hey, if this is going to be problematic for them, maybe they should purchase a different type of product.
Well, and as being a former developer, there is a strategy on the use of land and how many units we can get out. There's an efficiency and there's a cost. You've already bought the land and you can't use it, and you've got to, if you're going to do the project, you're going to have some strategy that have it make financial sense. And it looks to me like they've done a really good job. I like their site plan, and I think it is an improvement above what we really had in reducing density. Anytime we can do that in the city and do it and still accommodate a good product, I think that's a good step. So just my thoughts.
Well, I think it's also important to appreciate the variety of units and types that are in this development. And of these 72 homes, half of them are going to have stacked cars, but they are set back 40 foot. So, 35 units out of 500 plus units may have a challenging driveway, but yet still a driveway that meets the requirements.
Anybody in the audience we're debating this thing at length up here. Anybody got any thoughts, or anybody that wants to say something? Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, my name is Dennis Druyer. I'm the land planner for this project. I represent the lake property. We call it West 34th Avenue sometimes. And every point that's been made on the dais up here is exactly correct. You've hit on all the points that we've considered in our design. We took Mr. Garris seriously 3 years ago when he said that a great portion of the lower section was going to be wetlands, so we had it delineated. This is when we discovered that Pod D, more than half of Pod D is wetlands, as you had known from being in there yourself. We took that to heart and gave ourselves that factual information. We even had some wetlands considered not wetlands that were old farm ponds, but these were confirmed. We are in the rare situation here of coming in and asking for your approval of reducing the lots and reducing the density and adding green space. There are reasons for it. Part of it is voluntary. Much of it is driven by the loss of buildable land. We also want you to know that we are not finding any buyers or builders that wish to do the attached version that I put on my plan. I submitted a plan that showed attached lots at 40 feet wide with setbacks at each end of a run of attached houses. No one seems to want to do that product. It's a very popular product for seniors and folks who are going to have their lawns mowed by someone else. We find that a lot of people, a lot of builders and developers are very favorable to the 42-foot wide lots, which would be approved by this, detached with the 2 parking spaces in the front and the 2 parking spaces within the garage. It's been pointed out to us by Mr. Harris and others that many people move in and do not put their cars in the garage for days, weeks, months, or even years if they have jet skis or something else. We want to make sure with our design and your approval that there's a place to park 2 cars outside if they never clean up their garage. You can keep that door closed. So we've made an effort to do that. I also want you to know that my conceptual plan came up with 72 lots in Pod D. The max we're getting with stormwater management, 50-foot road right-of-ways and so forth, the most lots I've been able to get is 54. we will not get 72. We won't get 62 in Pod D. So we're reduced even more. It's the job of a land planner to show you what I think I can get so that we aren't approved for less than we can get, but we're getting less now. Reducing the overall 575 units in this project would be fine with us. We're not going to move them to another location. We have 4 pods with 4 different types of housing. And to the credit of this board, the council and the mayor and the planning commission in 2018, our intent is to provide workforce housing, which we don't have in Gulf Shores. That's not cheap housing. That's housing that can be reached with a mortgage and a job. That's housing that will be high quality to your standards. And it's not starter homes, and it certainly is no subsidized homes or tax credit homes. Every community needs those too, but that's not what this is. Workforce housing is for your most important people. I don't have to sell the zoning, we're already zoned, but the most important people in our community are the nurses, the teachers, the first responders, the mechanics, members of our government staff, everyone who works here every day and can't afford to live here. So I hope you understand that's what we're trying to do here with high quality standards. We're not finding any takers on the apartment pod either. We're not here to discuss that today, but seems that the rents here will not justify the cost of building apartments with the new construction costs and development costs and paving costs. So we'll probably have another product in that pod that we'll have to come back to you or the Planning Commission if we change that character in that apartment section. I ask you today to consider this for advertising, and you won't vote until maybe next month after it's been advertised, but we have the best intentions here. We're telling you that we're getting fewer units, we'll have more green space. We've already dedicated the right-of-way for West 34th Avenue over to your property to the west, which might take some pressure off of 59. I've worked with Lee Jones and Andy Bauer and Mark Ackerman, who've been terrific in this. They've been firm with the rules and helpful with our design. You have a very good staff. We would like to continue that with your consideration and hope that you'll vote to approve us next month or when the actual vote is. I'd really like to answer any questions you have, but I think you've grasped exactly what we're doing here.
You say you're not gonna put 72 in?
We can't get 72 in.
Can you get us a new design of Pod D?
No, we'd have to engineer it to tell you exactly what it is. If you want to limit us to 60 or something, I'm asking for Pod D to allow this product. And we won't know until we spend $100,000 on engineering for
Okay,
the whole
I see,
thing.
I understand.
We don't need to have an exact number. I hope that you don't, but if you want to limit it to anything. I've even told Andy in all of our discussions, if it was the wish of the council, you could tell us that you're not in favor of attached housing here. But if there's a single car garage, we would still push it back 40 feet and detached housing. If you notice, my sketch was 2 detached houses, and the single garage would need to be pushed back so that 2 cars could fit. We took that seriously, your concern on underlying zoning.
Thank you, sir. Any questions, any additional questions? So we got the right guy to answer if you got any. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate your presentation. That is the last thing that we have on the agenda. I have a couple of things I'd like to mention. The first of which is Deputy Chief Niedermeyer, I'd like for you to kind of update us on, last meeting we had significant discussion about these scooters and this ordinance proposal that we had that we've delayed. I know you've been working some on that. Will you kind of update us what to expect there?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon. I spoke with Chief Delmore over this, and we're going back to the city attorney with some of the items that were presented last week for clarification. We'll have that completed shortly, hopefully.
So we're not talking about anything this week. So the earliest we could talk about and consider that would be the next cycle.
Correct.
Would be 2 weeks from tonight at a CAL meeting. We could discuss it and that'd be the earliest it could come up.
Yes, sir.
Because I just know I'd been asked where we were with that, and I just want to make sure that at least everyone understood the process and where we were, and not necessarily, I think if you were here last Monday, you know what we're discussing. It's just getting the understanding how we can create an ordinance that fits exactly what we were wanting and what the applicant, or what the person that was the rental property manager was requesting.
Yeah, we're looking for some clarification from the city attorney.
I just wanted to bring that up. Thank you, Dan. And the next item that I want to do is a much more pleasant thing we talked about. I want to welcome our good friend Herb Malone back. And Herb, we hadn't seen you in a while, and I know that you've had some issues, and we're so proud that you're here with us. I can't tell you. You continue to take care of yourself. Well, well, this body, this city, this community loves you. We really do, and that's truly stated and from the heart. So we're just glad you're okay. Anybody else with any comments or anything that they'd like to approach the council about? Yes, sir. Come on.
It's a follow-up to the presentation that was made last week. There was some discussion, there was a lot of discussion, I wasn't here, I watched it, a lot of discussion regarding the interpretation and it's applied to the rental and the motor scooters. And you had brought up, Mayor, about the e-bikes and the unfortunate situation. I think the information was presented to you at the time was not correct. Alabama is one of the very few remaining states that have addressed the issues of the burgeoning e-bike industry. And as it stands now, I think the quote from the deputy chief was, as I understand it, this only applies to gasoline with regards to the CCs on the motorized scooters. There is no distinction in the Alabama law regarding motor versus, or the gasoline versus electric. And I have put together a pack. I'll give it to whoever wants it. But there is a lot of misunderstanding about the e-bikes in Alabama. There's a legislation that's not clear. What it stands now is you need a motorcycle endorsement to ride an e-bike. And they're prohibited from recreational trails. They're prohibited from sidewalks, which most people aren't on sidewalks anyway, but they're limited to the road, but you have to have a motorcycle endorsement in order to ride an e-bike. Federal government in 2002 authorized, or they recognized e-bike classification as a bicycle. And right now, most of the states, there's 3 categories, whether the pedal assist up to 28 miles an hour, pedal assist up to 20, or full throttle up to 20. So there's 3 categories. And I have reached out to the several different agencies that would have something to do with this. One is the League of American Bicyclists, which Andy Bauer has been working with to establish a criteria to get Gulf Shores recognized as a bicycle-friendly community. He's been working through that for a couple of years that I'm aware of. Reached out to the Alabama League of Municipalities. I think you're probably a member of that. And I didn't hear anything back. So I just want, before you go, I don't know what the police department is going to discuss with the attorney, but I own an e-bike, and I put between that bike and my old beater bike, I had over 5,000 miles on it. I ride the e-bike now due to a heart condition, and I would hate, I don't think the police departments will come out and go after e-bikers with what was discussed last week, but the law, somebody could make an issue of it, because there is no difference between the way the law is stated in Alabama. I think there's 6 states left that haven't addressed it. Alabama's one. So if I could give this to whoever.
Deputy Chief Niedermeyer, that just made this presentation, is the guy that's leading that, and Chief Delmore is back there with him, so give it to them. That's exactly what we're trying to work through, is all the details of the law and to make sure that we adopt an ordinance that does exactly what it was intended to do.
Well, enforcement's got to be done at the state level because, I mean, and I'm sure, and I'm just making some assumptions that when the owner of the business came in the first time, she indicated she had an attorney. There was no indication of that the last week, and I'm guessing the attorney said, what can I do? It's a state law. What can I do? But it has to almost be done because then she could come back and say, well, you're not doing anything about e-bikes.
Well, and that's the reason speculation on all our part is different potentially than the law. So we're going to try to understand that completely. But I appreciate your comments and your research. If you'll share that with Deputy Chief Niedermeyer, then I think we can use that. Thank you.
Very good, thank you.
And I think those are great points because being a cyclist, the e-bikes are uniquely different than the mopeds and the motor scooters that she has. I mean, the e-bike basically allows people to continue their cycling history well into their 80s and 90s. I've been on trips where people, in their 80s and 90s are doing these pretty aggressive bike trips because they have the e-assist, and they're uniquely different than a motor scooter that we're talking about controlling from a rental program. So clarity in that, I appreciate you bringing that up.
Specifically to finish a week-long tour that I had done for 24 years straight. I have a heart condition. I'm missing a third of a lung due to lung cancer diagnosis, and I couldn't make it up the hills. And I bought that. I wanted to get 25 years in on that ride, and I was able to do that with e-bike.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not a motor scooter. It's not a motorcycle.
Yeah, the utility of both of those are uniquely different, so.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody from the, Dr. Aiken, you or Mr. Corcoran have anything you want to share with us?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I am excited tonight to make an announcement. As you know, we've been working on developing the job description and hiring a system-wide athletic director who is going to not only work with our athletic programs, but the city's athletic programs to make sure that we have quality programs for male and female athletes. And so we have found and hired a great athletic director, and I'm going to ask him to come up for just a second. Coach Kevin Tubbs is here. Coach Tubbs comes to us from Homewood City Schools, who has one of the best overall athletic programs in the state. And it's just part of your commitment and our commitment to provide the best for our students. So Coach Tubbs, welcome to Gulf Shores. Anything to say? I didn't prepare him for that.
No. Listening to I believe it was what's the boulevard that you guys just spent a lot of money on?
Coastal Gateway.
Coastal Gateway. So I just bought a house on Coastal Gateway. So I appreciate all the work and the extra money that just went into that. So I'm going to be a happy resident of Gulf Shores pretty soon. So, but no, I'm excited about being here and really excited about the direction we're going.
Well, we are too, and we're glad to have you on board, and we're excited the experience that I know you have coming from where you came from, that you've seen it done right, and that's what we want to do. So,
absolutely, yes, sir.
And just speaking of that experience, Coach Tubbs has worked on not only the collegiate level, but high school levels, and is a state championship coach himself with girls basketball, right? Yeah, so we're going to focus on all sports, and again, we're working to meet the expectations that this city has.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Welcome aboard. Anybody else with anything they'd like to share or questions or comments you'd like to propose? Yes, sir. Mr. Ackerman?
Just really brief, this past weekend, we hosted our annual Arbor Day celebration. The Beautification Board did an excellent job. I'd also like to thank Public Works and the Landscape Division, as well as Dan and the Green Academy from the high school. Total, we gave out close to 1,000 trees in just under an hour. So it was the most successful Arbor Day program we've ever had, and I think a lot of that success was due specifically to Lindsay Hart and the effort she put into promoting the event and getting the word out to the community. I'd like to definitely give her a special thanks for going above and beyond to help make sure it was an overwhelming success this year.
Good job. Good job. What were the mystery trees? You kind of hinted that there would be some surprise gifts. What were you giving away?
Well, we had some, let's see, we had a blood orange, a Meyer lemon, we had Satsuma, And I believe there was a loquat or another fruit tree. There was several fruit trees we gave out. It was kind of like a bonus tree if you got a sticker in your brochure. And then we also had some additional oak trees that the high school kids grew in. They had 400 trees themselves that they gave away, and we had about 600 trees we gave away. First time we've ever given away our full inventory that we brought to the event, and it was overriding. Says also thanks to Matt Aiken for allowing us to host the event at the elementary school. We couldn't have done it without the location.
Very good, very good. Well, we talked about it when we were discussing the Arbor Day, that after the storm and the loss of trees, it was going to be a really important year to give that out. So thank you. If there's nothing else
I got
by anybody?
One
Yes,
thing,
sir.
Mayor, I'm sorry. If people hadn't heard that Joe McCluskey passed away here, I think this weekend, which was one of our first fire chiefs on our volunteer fire department. So keep their family in your prayers and memories.
Thank you. Joe was a good man. Thank you. We'll see you next Monday night.